So you've got a team member who they've been around for a while. They've got a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of value there. They have several people reporting to them. And the issue is that despite their tenure and the value that they add in terms of knowledge, they're engaging in behaviors that are toxic. And it's very likely that if they continue these behaviors, some number of valuable A players are going to leave because they don't want to work for this person. So this makes the coaching conversation a little bit easier because you kind of know the end game, so to speak, which is they either fix it or they're going to have to play in a different team. So obviously we don't want to start there, but I think it just kind of helps in the framing. So how I always recommend starting any type of coaching conversation is it sounds like you do believe that this person has potential and they're open to growing. So you can always start with that. There's a phrase that you can say before delivering feedback that is the researchers found it so powerful. I forget the exact numbers. I mean, it increased the likelihood of people acting on the feedback by a huge amount. So much so that they called it wise feedback or even magical feedback. And all they did was they prefaced the feedback by saying, I have really high expectations for you, and I'm giving you this feedback because I believe that you can meet them. And I want to help you get there. And so now it just communicates psychologically. It creates a very safe environment for someone that says, wow, this person believes in me. They have high expectations. They think I'm a high achiever. And obviously, I wouldn't recommend that you say that if you don't believe it, but it sounds like in this case you do. And so the person's going to be much more open. And so then, I think in the spirit of coaching, the idea is we're trying to help that person be the best that they can be. Although, of course, it's very important for you that this behavior changes. I think in order to get them to buy in, it's important for them to see why it's important that the behavior changes. And to me, the best way to do that is to tie in their goals, whether it's business objectives, strategic objectives for the next quarter, professional objectives for the near future. If you can help someone understand, like you could even start the conversation like just reviewing, hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what you want to achieve in the next quarter for your team. This is what you'd like to achieve professionally, and they agree. You could say, well, I'd like to help you with that. There's some things I've been noticing that I think will prevent you from getting there. And I think you can get there, and I have high expectations of you. I know you can meet them. So I want to give you some feedback that I think will help. And is that okay? And if the person says, yeah, and you say, okay, well, there's been people have brought to my attention that you're communicating in this way sometimes. How do you think people react to that type of communication? And so you notice here what I'm trying to really focus in on is we want this person to talk through why what they're doing might prevent them from hitting their own goals. And that it might take some thought on your part about what questions you might want to ask, but because they might not come right out and say, well, I think they're fine with it. I mean, no one's ever complained to me. And so you might have to probe a little bit and say, well, maybe some people are fine with that. Do you think everyone enjoys being communicated to in this way? And if you could start probing and asking some questions. The goal being that this person eventually articulates to you that they can see how this behavior is going to inhibit them from hitting the goals that they have set for themselves or from reaching their full potential. It sounds like they're very interested in growing and you want to help them grow. Now, after that point, then so let's say there's two things that can happen. One is they articulate, they want to change the behavior, they understand how it's going to help them hit their goals. That would be great. If that happens, great. Then you want to set a timeline for how quickly do you want to get this to change? What's a reasonable time frame do you think for you to be able to change this, and what help do you need from me? hit that goal of changing it in this time frame. And so that might be your first hiccup, assuming everything goes perfectly. Then your first hiccup might be there where they say, well, it might take me a few months. And you might have to say, well, I'm not sure that we can wait that long. There's some team members that are pretty frustrated. And I think we need to work on changing this in the next 2 weeks. What support do you need from me? What type of follow-up do you need from me? I want to help you do this. And whatever the time frame is for you that you need them to meet it. Now, if you get pushback there and they say they can't do it, you can say, well, this is very important for you, but it's also important for the team. It's important enough for me that if we can't hit this goal in time, we might have to have a conversation about what do we do? Like something will have to change, which could include moving team members around. It could include helping you find a different team. We don't want to get to that point. So how can I help you hit this in 2 weeks? And so then, if they set this goal and they don't hit it in a short time frame, then you can use what I call the 4 pieces of paper, which is a process that I learned from a colleague and a friend named John Spence, which I think is just ingenious. But, so let's say that you've been coaching, you've been helping them, and now it is like, hey, you have to fix this or you're gone. It's you can give them one last shot if you'd like to, and you can say, look, I believe you can do this. I want to help you get there, but you're going to have to really knock this out of the park in the next week. So what can you do to demonstrate to me in the next week that you've fixed this? And what would be something very obvious that this is fixed? And of course, prefacing this conversation is, look, we've tried to help you, we've tried to coach, but it doesn't seem like we've gotten there yet. And so if now we're thinking, if we can't fix it, we're going to have to find another team for you to be on. But we want to keep you, and we believe you can do this. So here's what we propose. On sheet of paper number 1, write down what is going to be the clear, obvious evidence that this has changed and that it's this is never going to happen again. On sheet of paper number 2, I want you to write down everything you need from me to help you hit that goal, because I want to help you. On sheet of paper number 3, I want you to write down what should be the reward within reason if you achieve this. Maybe it's a day off or something like that, or lunch on me. And sheet of paper number 4 is what should be the consequence if you fail to hit this goal. So you picked the goal, you tell me everything you need, and you still fail to hit it. What should the consequence be? Most people will write down that I should leave, because that's it. They created the goal, they told you everything they needed, and they still didn't hit it. So that's assuming that everything goes well up until the time frame. Let's take one step back to, well, what happens if before we get to the time frame there isn't really agreement on what they're doing is preventing them from hitting their own goals. So, at that point, I think you can go ahead and shift and say, well, from my view, this is very important for helping you hit this goal and this goal. It looks like you don't see it that way. This is very important for me. I really value some of the team members that are being affected by this. And I think they're frustrated enough that they're going to leave, which I don't want to have happen. And here's why. Because if they leave, this is the work that it's going to create for you and me in terms of having to do all the paperwork to let them go. This is what we're going to have to do to hire new people. This is all the productivity we're going to lose if we lose those 3 people, and we have to take our time and other team members' time to train 3 new people for the next quarter to 6 months. This is all the productivity I'm predicting we're going to lose. So this is something I want to avoid. So I would like this to happen, and here's the time frame I'd like to happen. So hopefully you don't have to get to that. Hopefully, if you ask the right questions, this person will be able to say, I understand how this is how this could prevent me from hitting the goals that I have, and I want to work to fix it.